Okay, so this week, the Secretary of our Health and Human Services here in the United States of America did something on the side of a New York City highway, or New York State highway, I should say, while his kids watched from the back seat. And this man wrote about it in his diary like it was completely normal. And it just became public knowledge this week. And I didn't think anything of it until I found out it involved something that wasn't a human and its genitalia. And I also found out his kids were in the car. That's when I realized this story was not normal and not okay. And it is my absolute pleasure to be the one to tell you all about it. So if you're new here, I'm Lauren Paritra. That's Willa Paritra, my boss and co-host. She has a little bit of a tummy ache today, but we're going to ask you to please take a moment to make sure you're subscribed. We currently have a lead, you and I, Willa, on Katie Miller. Katie Miller is the wife of Stephen Little Bitch Miller, the pale white nationalist from Santa Monica behind all of this ICE and immigration terror. She looked at that man who's never seen sunlight and married him on purpose. And now she's building a podcast on the backs of trafficked immigrants. So the least we can do is maintain at our lead at a pure principle. So consider every sub, every hype, every comment, every rating, 5 stars, comment 6 words or more, every save, share, follow, every action as an FU to Katie and Stephen Little Bitch Miller. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. So at first, given his history, this might have looked normal, but it wasn't. RFK Jr., again, current Secretary of Health and Human Services, the man whose job is overseeing what goes into American bodies, keeps a freezer full of roadkill at his house. And, sometimes I make comments like, hey, this guy's got something funny going on. Somebody needs to check his hard drive. But with RFK Jr., somebody needs to check his fucking freezer because it's full of dead animals he collects. And he has said this out loud. And this isn't even the weirdest part. He says this stuff out loud with his full chest through his voice, which is got issues and something going on. Don't come for me. I don't know what's going on there. But he has zero hesitation and zero shame in saying this. And so when I found out today's news, which I'm going to share with you, I didn't really think too much of it. I'm hard to rattle at this point. I ignored it because rich people are weird. Maha people are weird. Your fixation with food dyes instead of making sure that children can eat is weird. That was a mistake on my part for not looking further because this one detail mattered more than I thought.
The New York Post reports that in a 2001 diary entry, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote about cutting off the penis of a road-killed raccoon while his kids waited patiently in the car so that he could examine it later.
Yeah, so that's the headline. But this isn't even the worst part. There's also a whale. At some point, if you're not familiar, Kennedy, he's a literal Kennedy, found a dead whale on a beach, retrieved a chainsaw, just had a chainsaw lying around, removed its head, and strapped it to the roof of his car for a 5-hour highway drive. His daughter described whale juice pouring through the car windows every time they accelerated. Oh my God. I am a vegan. This is a vegan household except for what Willa eats. I'm traumatized secondhand by this story. That is disgusting. The family wore plastic bags over their heads with mouth holes cut out. What a visual. Other drivers on the highway were reportedly not pleased. He thought this was fine and normal. This is where things really go sideways and take a turn. Then there's a bear. If you haven't heard the bear story, dead bear cub found in Hudson Valley, where my family lives, loaded into his van, driven to Central Park, staged to look like a bicycle accident, and he explained his reasoning for this. The reasoning does not help his case.
I had an old bike in my car that somebody asked me to get rid of it. I said, let's go put the bear in Central Park and we'll make it look like he got hit by a bike. We thought it would be amusing for whoever found it.
At this point, and I distinctly remember where I was when I first heard this story when he was still running for president, and I was like, that can't be real. That is just too nutty nuts. And unfortunately, it was real. And unfortunately, he continued to ascend to the highest position of government power as it relates to our healthcare and health and human services. We are not at the worst part yet. A new book came out this week. It's called RFK Jr., The Fall and the Rise. And it's written by the New York Post journalist Isabel Vincent. She got her hands on his private diaries from 1999 to 2001. What a sample. And one entry describes a Tuesday in November 2001 on Interstate 684 in New York. And this is where it gets serious, okay? Take a breath if you need one. He pulled over on the shoulder of this major highway. His kids were in the back seat waiting patiently. Dad was outside the car. Both of his hands are occupied, doing something that I have now described to multiple people. And every single one of them responded with some version of, excuse me, what? Are you? But here's the part nobody talks about. I didn't realize what it meant yet, and neither will you. Keep that in mind for one more second, okay? He was cutting off the penis of a dead raccoon, pulled over on the side of the road with his kids in the car to collect the peen of a dead raccoon to study it later. So he said, you are not a scientist. You are not a physician. You have zero medical experience or credentials, but you want to collect a dead raccoon, roadkill, not the whole body, just the penis? Are we okay? Are we okay? Because I don't feel like this is okay. This changes everything, okay? His exact words in his own diary were, I was standing there in front of my parked car on the Interstate 684, cutting the penis out of a road-killed raccoon, thinking about how weird some of my family members have turned out to be. Your family members, RFK Jr.? How about looking in the mirror? Then he added, and again, this man is a Kennedy. This man is a literal Kennedy. And he added, my kids waited patiently in the car while he's out there with a pair of scissors and the genitalia of a dead raccoon. The man was on a highway removing raccoon genitalia, and his brain went to, my family's weird though. I'm sorry, what?
Secretary, what did you do with the raccoon's dead penis? Where is it now?
And it didn't end there. The internet, predictably, joined me in sharing their thoughts. We're going to read some tweets. One person wrote, and I want to read this exactly as written, I'll take a dead raccoon penis atrocity over live children being perfect, grouped, and eaten for $100, Alex. I'm going to let that sit there. And then there's this, a man named Ted Smith, who I am now convinced is the most important commenter on the internet. Ted writes, I treated in an emergency room a fellow who tried that. Turned out the raccoon wasn't dead, just stunned when hit by a vehicle. The witness who drove the guy to the hospital stated the raccoon tore him up, hopped off, and came back for more. The injuries supported that story. Ted added a wide-eyed emoji at the end, as Ted should. And just so we're clear, there's a version of the story where the raccoon might win. Kennedy might have gotten lucky and it might have gnawed at his face and it could have saved him from a whole lot of subsequent embarrassment. Maybe. I don't know. The raccoon was on Interstate 684, fully deceased, dead as a doorknob, and not, as Ted had helpfully documented in what was apparently a raccoon taking a nap in the middle of the highway before deciding it had unfinished business. So looking back, this was a warning sign. Somebody else simply wrote, I mean, he used to slam heroin on the reg, so this shouldn't really surprise anyone. Fair point. The raccoon situation sure does land differently when you have his full biography in front of you. And my personal favorite, this one is from an account called Based Kenobi, who offered the most medically concise explanation available. That's the brainworm talking. 4 words that really say a lot. The situation kept escalating. The book's author told People magazine that Kennedy did this because he wanted to be a veterinarian as a kid. And instead of going to medical school with all the money and Kennedy wealth and name recognition and notoriety, he took the lazy man's way and collected the peens of dead animals off the highway with his children in the car. Somebody check that man's freezer. And this is where things start connecting. This is the man who sat this week before Congress and testified about American healthcare loudly and confidently about what goes into your body, who's currently overseeing a department accused of, spreading anti-vax messaging and making unsupported scientific claims. The thing about science is it's going to work whether you believe it or not. And if you're a Maha Looney Tune, there's a lot of data to support that. You just kind of fill in the blanks for the things you don't understand with the things that feel convenient and tickle your brain, okay? And once you understand that, this raccoon, peen, the whale, the bear, the freezer, the diary, it's a pretty obvious pattern.
I started doing hawking when I was 9 years old.
The strangest part is not even what he did. It's never been embarrassed. He's never been embarrassed about it. He hasn't been embarrassed about the whale, the freezer, taking the genitalia off of roadkill and like eating it or whatever. I'm going to gag into this mic, and I don't want to do that to you. His kids were in the car and nobody figured out what is going on. And somehow this really encapsulates the entire Trump administration. It's just their commitment to the bit and to being so nutty, lunatic-y, insufferable monster jackasses. It's something that the shit rates itself. I have no other words. I need to go touch some grass. But if, again, I'm Lauren Paritra. I am Lauren P across all social channels. Be careful not to follow the imposter accounts. They're growing. They're growing in size. They're multiplying. I am Lauren P, spelled like Loren, P like Paritra. And find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're now available on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, wherever you listen. And we could use your support in getting our ratings up there and getting the word out and listeners. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you want us to dig into more next. Let us know how this made you feel. Let us know if you think this is a brainworm or if we're being too generous with this nut. We'll be back with more.